Welcome everyone. We have our final This Week in Crypto here in May, on May 31st, 2024 here. Happy to have you all here watching either live or watching this on replay. Lots to go over after a mostly positive week. It's been a bit of an up and down journey, but the big news, of course, came out a little under 24 hours ago, and it's US related and not exactly what you would think is crypto adjacent. But what we're going to try to explore here is why it might be. And that is the fact that one of the two presidential candidates and the favorite, according to the polls as of late, Donald Trump has been convicted of 34 different counts of we'll just leave it as criminal activity, because we've got politicians and political channels that can do a much better job of discussing, and the nature of it isn't really relevant. The point is, something major is going on here in the US that actually can have an impact on the US stock market and, to a lesser extent, crypto. But as we know, crypto has been essentially conjoined with the S&P 500 for large amounts of time over the last almost 2.5 years now. It really began to have a high correlation in early 2022 as interest rates were skyrocketing, as COVID fears were starting to let up at that time. And both crypto and equities went on a huge downturn. As you can remember, it kind of came to a head with the FTX collapse in November of 2022. And then we went on one of the biggest bull runs crypto's ever seen. That culminated in March of 2024, about 2.5 months ago now. March 14th is when Bitcoin hit its all-time high. And since that time, it's been kind of a zigzag roller coaster pattern where we've gone slightly down in Bitcoin's value ever since. Not a big one, though, only about a 4 to 5% drop since that time. And we're still on the potential brink of coming back above it. Bitcoin is currently sitting at 68.1K, which, 1 year ago you would be thrilled about. Because we saw, 72K, almost 73K about 2 months ago. People are more lukewarm about markets right now. There has been a bit of a sentiment shift where, we saw some bearishness, especially when we dipped below 60K about a month ago. But because of the rebounds going on, and plenty of altcoins keeping people engaged, as you can see by some of these big green bars indicating price rises over the past week. Got it. Let me try something. Testing. Can you hear me? All right. Still live? Everything working on the stream? Yeah. Just let me know if it happens again. Sorry about that, folks. So as I was saying, plenty of altcoins keeping markets and traders engaged right now, while Bitcoin and Ethereum have been kind of in this flat period. But Bitcoin is still up 1.8% in the past week. Ethereum has been teasing 4K, up 3.3% in the past week, as the positive, sort of optimistic views related to the number 2 market cap asset are still prevalent after the ETFs were confirmed a little under 2 weeks ago. And you can see what's interesting is social volume continues to drop. Bitcoin's discussions this week are 16% down compared to the week prior. Ethereum's discussions down 34% compared to the week prior. And you can see, for the most part, most of these top caps are being talked about less and less if we expand and zoom out to the past 30 days, it's even more egregious. Bitcoin down 23% in discussions. Ethereum's actually up, and that's mostly related to the ETF, theorizing and optimism before it was approved, and it's still being talked about a little bit more. But obviously, social volume is down overall, as indicated by the massive amounts of red going on this chart here. But if you look at the past week, the standouts are not Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're Shiba Inu up 8%, Pepe 12.5%, Uniswap plus 18%, WIF 24% or so, Caspa 6.5%. And then the big ones here, BitGet would be the largest, right up with Dogwoof Hat. They're both the tied for first best returns over the past week. Talking about the top 100 market cap assets, up about 24% there, and Celestia up 19%, Core up 19%. So whether you've been in Bitcoin or specific altcoins has likely made a very big difference in terms of whether you're up or down right now. Speculative traders continue to be rewarded if they're picking the right assets, and many of them can do so by looking at the Santiment links and figuring out which coins are most likely to pop. And we'll kind of refresh people's memories on how people are doing that in a moment. But before we do, Maksim, how are you? And I got your note that there's a link that isn't being shared right now. I'm going to do that while I briefly say hello.
Yeah. Sorry for later. Yes. All good. Only very rainy. I don't think Europe will be washed away soon. It's like, otherwise it's good. But when you have such a weather condition, spend more time looking at charts. Maybe we can share something.
Of course. Yeah. What's your overall perception of where we're standing now after the?
Yeah, let's make
let's up and down week.
Yeah. Let's make one final top. I think it's volatility is pending in, so now will be very confusing for both sides. Long short. But I still do hope and believe we will make one push higher, and then it will crash.
Yeah, when you say crash, I mean, I guess two questions. How big of a crash are you anticipating? And
no, should go definitely below 3,000 Ethereum. I mean, that's we would go even before. I think I would expect it to go this direction already. But positive expectations kind of limited. Yeah, people discuss we should get to 4.5, 4. It's not bold enough. I mean, the moment they start talking, the next stop is 10. Maybe this is where we're going to crash to 3. Now, for the moment, it's still very narrow range since 10 days. I think 1 week ago when discussing now, which I say, okay, get used to there will be 2 weeks of boring actions just sideways. And then I think maybe 4 or 5 days we should spike higher. See expectations of 10,000, everything will turn positive. Yeah, ETF is working, something like this. And then we should go down. Yeah. I expect Ethereum below 3,000. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Correspondingly, Bitcoin below 60. Yeah.
So are you seeing, I guess, the reasoning for this? Are you kind of looking at this as a 5-wave cycle and us being close to the end of that 5th wave?
Yes. There are, if we're talking about Elliott waves, there are a few constructions or a few structures where I would say the 5th is being built. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Either already built. You could count it as the 5th done, but I would. But it will be a bit unusual. The typical setup would be a few more days and then 5th. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there is an argument, not just with your 5-wave cycle theory, but with the overheatedness of the markets. Traders are still up significantly, especially on the long-term time frame. Yeah. And as a reminder to everyone, I mean, Markets tend to move the opposite direction of the crowd's expectation. The crowd has been leaning positive, especially toward Ethereum.
Yeah, and Bitcoin too. If you will show later, the amount of profit taken on Bitcoin is ridiculously low. I mean, it's almost non-existent. Except this Mt. Gox movement, it was flat. Yeah, already for months, almost months, and it never ends up well. Yeah, you see, there's only. Oh, wait a second. Now there was another one. Okay, now it's better. If we see the spikes coming for the next, for the next 4 or 5 days, I might change my opinion. But you remember before this Mt. Gox move, it was flat. I mean, nothing happens, and it's, usually it's not going to end up well.
I was going to say this might be deceiving, right? Because it has to be related to the Mt. Gox.
Yeah, it is Mt. Gox. Yeah.
On the 27th.
Yeah, but the spikes thereafter, it's not. So some people indeed took it as a warning that, or as a possibility before Mt. Gox coin moves to exchanges or being liquidated, let's take some profit, which is good. It shows the level of worries. So it might be now some fuel in the market to push it higher. And this is my hope and belief at the moment is we will make one higher. But if we stay on the previous relatively low, quite low, honestly, profit taken on this, specifically this metric, net realized profit loss. If we make new highs and it will stay low as we had last month, 60K is the next target. But we'll see. Maybe it will change. Maybe people are now indeed concerned for whatever reason. Trump being put under probation. And revolt and civil war. I don't know. You can make a lot of crazy stories out of it if you want.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Trump story, that's what I kind of kicked off this stream with. You know, it is a big story. Obviously, you've never seen a former president, let alone someone who's trying to run for president again, be convicted of crimes, especially to this extent. I know there have been a few, things like Watergate with President Nixon back in the day while he was in office, things like that. But there hasn't been anything like this. It's unprecedented. That said, a lot of people still are skeptical that any consequences will happen at all, right? And it's no secret that in the financial world, a lot of people favor Donald Trump to be president to justify better market conditions, not just for equities, but for crypto. Trump has been very open just in the past month about his pro-crypto stance and how he wants to, allow self-custody to flourish and decentralized conditions to be present without limitations in the U.S. here, and obviously that has a trickle-down effect on the rest of the world. It's your opinion whether he's being authentic there, whether the other presidential candidate, Biden, feels the opposite about this, or if he has just been more close to the vest about it. But regardless, I have seen a sense that from the crypto community, they favor more bullish conditions with Donald Trump. And that's why this is all a big deal, right? Because if Trump's chances of being president from 2025 to 2028 is being threatened, that could negatively impact crypto markets. So as you can see here, if I open up the social trends page, it's just littered with Trump discussions. Trump, guilty.
Yeah. There are more.
Yeah.
Like president, I think there was a president. Yeah, exactly. Number 7.
Yeah, I mean, if we
you can combine Trump or president or guilty, and you will see the whole dominance of the stock again.
Right. So there was also
quite substantial, yeah.
Because the last few days have been discussing whether he will be found guilty, and then this is the official news confirming it.
And actually, what I'm surprised to see here is quite dominant around, when was it? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, this was May 8th.
Okay. By the way, for those on the stream, this is a really cool tool, and we are rolling out soon for you to save your narrative. You define and save your narrative, and you have your set of narratives. But what you're looking here is there are many talks about narrative investment or crypto narrative. This is how you do it, or how we do it internally. And we did the tool to make it more public. You define your keywords, and then you see how it dominates the market and on which channels exactly. Quite powerful tool if the moment you get used to it and you find your way to work with it. We use it many times to spot bottoms or even pending tops, or let's say market dominance of specific topics which you could understand what it means for the broader market conditions here. It's your favorite one?
Yeah, I love this example because
buy the dip until you don't believe in dip anymore, and then this is the dip here.
Right. It's just kind of a reminder to everyone that it isn't just based on news topics. You can actually kind of use this as a sentiment measurement to see how much people are suggesting buying versus selling over time. And if we just look at the past week and we go to shared axis, you can see points in which there were huge surges in buy mentions and huge surges in sell mentions over time. And often, I'm not seeing any clear examples in the past week, but oftentimes when one skews over the other, the opposite is what ends up happening. So if there's a high ratio of buy calls versus sell calls, that's when prices tend to dip. If it's a lot of sell calls versus buy calls, that's when you start to see bounces because the crowd is getting it wrong most of the time. So it's really a great tool, as Maksim suggested. Now, while we're on social trends, we talked about the dominating topics being about Trump being found guilty, and believe it or not, this is still a rumor phase, not a news phase. Yes, the verdict has come down, 34 convictions here, or 34 counts being found guilty at least, but the consequences of this is still up for debate, believe it or not. And until we find out the fate of Trump over the next few months, it's going to be a lot of discussion week in and week out. I guarantee it, as to whether he's actually going to be in jail, whether he sees any consequences at all, whether it impacts his ability to be president, whether it changes the perceptions of U.S. citizens as to whether he should be president. You know, it's such a unique situation, and whatever your political persuasions are, I think that you should be seeing how this impacts the markets, because it's going to be a lot of speculation on every single big piece of news that comes out on the will he or won't he go to jail kind of saga. So pay attention, and you'll find out a lot of interesting stuff there. As far as some of the longer term topics, you can see, both the words bull market and bear market have been trending way down. And this is actually very interesting. It means that the indecisiveness has kind of reached a peak. There is no longer loud narratives coming out stating that we're still in a bull market or we're now in a bear market. It's a lot of people quiet because they just don't know after 2.5 months of ranging back and forth. I still see more optimism than skepticism here, which makes sense because the latest swing has been crypto markets going back up and rebounding in the past month. But, there's no longer this proclamation that we're in a bull market. And I think that is a shift that has changed things a bit. You can also see Bitcoin ETFs. There was actually a jump about 10 days ago. I believe this was due to a high level of volume coming in, combined with the Ethereum ETFs being approved. So Bitcoin ETFs kind of started getting talked about a little bit more.
No, it's because of social query behind. It does include the name ETF, so it is related to Ethereum ETF too. As a matter of fact, I asked Gary to upload updated version. It will include more about SEC approval I checked it, it will show in a few percent more of data. So whenever ETFs, and we'll change the naming. Now it's not only Bitcoin ETF, it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or general ETF, and SEC approval of something. It's a very interesting. You see how precisely at the reversal point it was. I was using in the last conversation someone that it's not necessarily by a top signal. It's more like age consumed. It's a volatility marker. Yeah, whenever it grips the trader or investor minds, it means the market will gain volatility immediately. Yeah? Most of the time, turnaround. Yeah, at the moment, because they speak about one thing and they have consensus, and the market will move just opposite direction. It's one of probably top 3 leading narratives now, ETFs. Then this sudden change, sudden change in American policies, because they now start competing with each other. I always say competition is the best invention.
Right.
And so the regulation is a kind of changing. I mean, it might be just an election part, but maybe more serious. Yeah. If in America it starts getting traction, I mean, the whole of the world will just follow. And of course, technological advancements, because there are so many things happening in crypto, including meme coin. It's a kind of advancement we get where we came from. Identifying these narratives properly, you can really see where the attention of the crowd or the most market flows. Are they talking about extremely bullish sentiment, or are they talking about buying the bottom? And then you know, okay, I'm not buying the bottom. These kind of things can indeed give quite an edge.
Yeah, I'm noticing here, Maxim, that the mentions of meme coins actually hit the highest social dominance of the past 3 months. Just a couple days.
Yes, and we're not listing here specific names of meme coins. It will be even much higher, because sometimes people don't even say meme coins; they just say VIF or all this. Now there are 3 cats related to meme coins. You don't like dozens of them. If we have actually a narrative search for it, probably we will include it in the default dashboard so you can track it. It's very substantial. It's a really substantial traffic there, social traffic.
Yeah, if I just look up SHIB or Bonk or Pepe, I mean, it looks pretty similar.
Yes. And then at the VIF. Okay, anyway, we can do this exercise more and more,
But yeah, the point stands. It's clearly a point in time right now where people are looking at the most speculative assets out there. It doesn't get more speculative than meme coins, and most meme coins now are not shy about calling themselves meme coins. That's kind of a change over the last.
They're proud,
yeah. But back in 2021, it was kind of the Doge community. Yes, they knew they were meme coins, but they didn't really want to diminish the value by calling it that. And now it's kind of an open thing. So there has been a change there, and I do view this, Maxim, as a bit of a bearish signal when you're seeing meme coins be talked about more and more, especially on the social dominance end.
Yes. True.
So overall, it looks like it's pretty even across the board. Actually, not much talk about them on Reddit. I think Reddit kind of makes fun of the meme coiners more than most, but Telegram, plenty of talk.
Yeah, Telegram and Twitter. Yeah, this is maybe for Chanto. I don't know. Sometimes even have spikes here.
Yeah. So regardless, it looks like that is a sign that we might be getting a bit overheated, and it corresponds with Maxim's theory that we are getting close to the end of that 5th wave stage. So there are some indications pointing to a correction coming soon. Let's take a look at some actual on-chain stuff now. I wanted to load this MVRV chart also. This is a model that's available to everyone with Sandbase Pro. You can just make a copy of this model that I'm looking at right now and see whether, let me make this a little larger. There we go. So now you can see all of the assets that are listed on this model and whether they are underbought, semi-underbought, neutral, semi-overbought, or overbought. And this is all using math based on the average of the 30-day, 90-day, and 180-day midterm returns of the average wallets that have been active over those periods of time. So we combine it all together and we look at the divergences as to whether they are, on average, each of these assets up a lot of money or down a lot of money. And the extreme ones, we can see High Street is way overbought, while P Network is way underbought. These are a few extreme examples. But if you just look at the overall landscape, most of them are on the green side of things. They're a little bit semi-underbought still because Bitcoin has had so much dominance itself. A lot of altcoins have been left behind. So don't get it twisted. Most assets are not doing what, Bonk and WIF and Shiba Inu and a few other meme coins are doing. Most have been falling behind, actually. So there could be an argument that there might be a little final phase of altcoin markets overall going on a bit of a run, or that just may never happen. We can see that Bitcoin is sitting here at neutral, and a lot of it's going to rest on whether it has one final leg up above 70K, or if it comes crashing down before that opportunity ever occurs. So I wanted to give an update for people who are wondering about the overall altcoin landscape. It still looks semi-optimistic based on losses that have kind of surmounted over the past 6 months or so, or especially the last 3 months. And then if we look on-chain here, switching over to some of Bitcoin's main metrics, we did see a huge transaction volume spike here on the 27th. This correlated with the Mt. Gox movements that occurred earlier this week. Going down, same thing here, not much on the daily active address side, but there was a lot on the circulation side. This, of course, makes sense because it's a lot of very large addresses moving a much higher amount of unique coins. So that's why, the active address side didn't really move, because you're looking at a few distinct huge addresses on Mt. Gox that are moving a ton of coins. And then if we go to MVRV for Bitcoin in particular, it pretty much matches what we just saw on the MVRV model. The 30-day returns are just above water at plus 2.4%, while the long term is still very, very concerning, where the average returns of any wallet that's been active in the past 365 days is up 30.5%. That continues to be a bit of a threat, right? And kind of
it is. No doubts.
Yeah,
no doubts.
Five-wave theory that you're talking about, where there's just a lot of profits that have been mounting up, and it means that we're primed to eventually see a bit of a drop down here. And I think a lot of it might depend on whether the 30-day starts to get, around this plus 10% range again. But either way, you're seeing more risk on both the short-term and the long-term side right now. So proceed with caution is what this MVRV metric is telling us right now. Now, if we look at funding rate, there is a bit of a long ratio forming right now. Not a major one by any stretch, but if we go to 6 months here, you can see the big long ratios occurred back here in March. This is when all of these FOMOers kind of got wrecked by being way too optimistic about future price movement. And other than a few moments here we saw on May 27th, coinciding with the Mt. Gox movements, there were some longs that have kind of dropped back down, and we're pretty much just above even right now. Ideally, we'd like to start seeing some of these short bars form again. You can see all of the bottom opportunities that were forming when they existed, and now it's kind of just flat. So markets or traders are mostly kind of just sitting on their hands waiting for one big movement one way or another, and then you're likely going to see funding rates react. Whale transactions, they continue to be very inactive compared to what we saw in the earlier parts of the year. $1 million transactions, if I put on like a 7-day average, looks like the 7-day average now is about 1495, 1494. $1 million plus transactions per day. That is less than half of what we were seeing back right around the all-time highs, where there was a little over $3,400 million plus transactions per day. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're, whales are dumping or accumulating. We need to look at this chart to really get a good idea of that. One of my favorite lines is this one, the 10 to 10,000 coin holders, specifically the percentage of supply that they hold. And they look like they had this big dump, but as we alluded to, this was related to the Mt. Gox movements. And all this did was kind of reshuffle a lot of the small to mid-sized whale addresses and consolidated them into really, really large whale addresses. That's why we have this line now, which shows the 10 plus Bitcoin addresses. Just any address, whether it's on an exchange or in a self-custody wallet, this measures how much of the supply, specifically just the overall supply, any address has, assuming the wallet has at least 10 Bitcoin in it. And you can see there's been a consistent climb over the past 6 months, but I actually want to look at the last 5 years here, because you get a really good sense of how valuable this line is. And we post about it on our Twitter and our Discord and various socials earlier this week. But if you take a look at when it peaked way back in February of 2022, this was right when we started to hear that interest rates were going to be moving up and potentially impact all markets. Equities started to take a huge tumble. The all-time high then from November of 2021 was about 3 months prior to them peaking. And then you can see this massive dump in coins held by these 10 plus Bitcoin addresses. And it got all the way from 16.24 million Bitcoin held down to 15.9. They dumped about 344.1K Bitcoin during this stretch. And it culminated in the very end of 2022. And then right at the turn of the year, they started to accumulate again. And this was right after the FTX collapse. It would have been a prime opportunity to buy. You can see that it was actually at around 16K per Bitcoin. And since that time, Bitcoin has moved up about 4x, while the amount of accumulation that's gone on from the 10 plus Bitcoin addresses is at about 258,000 Bitcoin, which is massive. And it really has not stopped, even with all of this crazy volatility over the past couple of months after the all-time high. This is a very good sign for the very long term. I still agree with Maksim that we're seeing a threat of a mid-sized crash coming up soon, but I like the fact that all wallets holding 10 or more Bitcoin continue to collectively move up in coins held, not down like we saw in 2022. So if you're worried about a 2022 sized crash, you can at the very least be comfortable knowing that the whales are not repeating their dumpish behavior that we saw back then. I saw Maxim mention something in our private chat. Okay, you want to take a look at this link here regarding Polkadot. Let's take a look.
Yeah. Well, I added small thing about OpenGov, but it will not change the trend. Yeah. So someone said on the stream that Polkadot are doing marketing now. The good news is, actually, can you also change the price then to Polkadot? You type dot, I think it will appear price, and then you change to it .USD and you remove dot. So you just enter in the search field dot.
No, I know. I've done it before. Right now, you can see the URL. It's all already shown.
Not on URL. I mean, in where there is social context. Just enter as you are looking for another word. Enter the dot. Leave this. Yeah, just enter dot.
Like this.
Type. Okay, then you can select its price and you can remove this here. It's a trick. How you do it? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the mention of Dot, Polkadot, Polka, and Parachain with Dot's price overlaid. Go ahead.
Exactly. So the good news is it's not getting traction on social channels yet. So you can assume they started marketing, but it hasn't reached its peak or its activity yet. So if you're into Polkadot, okay, you can keep it. You can speculate that they will find a way how to market it the best. There is small increase. You see, if you do social dominance, you will see that lately there was a small increase, but it's really like it just, if you reduce maybe to 1 year, I don't know how you show now, how long?
That was 1 year. This is 1 month.
Okay. Yeah. There are some small spikes here and there, but nothing really substantial yet. Nowadays, doing marketing in crypto is hard. I can tell you, we were doing some marketing push for our Sana, decentralized market intelligence platform. It's hard. Yeah, it's oversaturated with things, and meme coins, and everyone is doing. So coming back to Polkadot, if they're using or they're trying to reach out to the mass crowds, it hasn't happened yet. You can see it on this data. So, and actually, it's a good news for speculators. Okay, it's there might be some potential it will increase. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's really this big spike happened on Telegram in particular. A little bit of 4chan discussion, but it's not very commonly talked about. It looks like these are pretty small sample sizes.
Yeah. Not yet.
But
there was a time Polkadot was very popular, but yeah, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, especially a couple of years ago, it was one of the development activity leaders. I know that gave it some traction. If we look at the screener, actually, I had development activity open, and Dot and Kusama, which share the same GitHub repository, they're down to number 9 and 10. So they've fallen quite substantially, actually, compared to a couple of years ago when it was always Cardano, Polkadot, and Kusama as the top 3. And now we're seeing Hedera up here, interestingly, Optimism at number 2, Chainlink at 4, Starknet is a new addition over the last couple of months, Status, Internet Computer, Cosmos, and then here's Polkadot and Kusama and Ethereum right below it. And you'll notice that it's not coincidental. Most of these market cap ranks are top 100. The cream does tend to rise to the top, and we believe pretty strongly about our development activity metric as a good basis for how active the teams behind these coins actually are, how innovative and willing to improve they are to make their...
They have to. Competition is harsh. I mean, for most of these projects, well, maybe except Optimism, it has really good, not product market fit, how to say, chain technology market fit, because it's used, its tech is used by quite some popular chains, Coinbase and plus. The others are still like kind of struggling or trying to achieve some market relevance, especially Cardano lately. I don't know, people making again jokes about it. Cosmos is okay, but not really on radars. Polkadot, Kusama, Chainlink is okay, it's Status, I haven't heard anything about them anymore. I know they're building, but they actually, the way they build the software, it a little bit inflate dev activity. They distribute between many developers, and it kind of inflates a bit dev activity. So from this list only, Starknet, they're definitely building. But I read just today or yesterday, someone posted that the on-chain activity is almost non-existent. It's way down from peak values, and they were making jokes or sarcasm. Quite often it's maybe in buy signal. Okay, but not investment advice. When we see more upcoming sarcasm and jokes about Starknet, it will become more serious. More serious buy signal. Interesting. Because they're building, definitely building. But of course, they did a lot of airdrops and all these programs, and market is flooded with kind of people who are chasing airdrops. Now they're gone. but maybe something is left. We'll see.
That's actually a good point. I have seen airdrop as a popular term over the past month or so. I'd want to take a quick look at, because this is another very crucial top indicator when people are talking about, essentially getting free coins by holding some meme coin that they've never heard of before. This often can be a top indicator. It doesn't look like it's had any significant top leads. The latest one, I guess, would be maybe 9-10 days ago. But going back historically, you can certainly find moments where, airdrops are being talked about a lot, especially about 1 year ago. This was right before a retrace. But keep an eye on words like airdrop as a sign that scams are getting high, greed is getting high, speculative asset interest is starting to surge, stuff like that. And then also just by sector, for those wondering which sectors have kind of made some headway over the past week, as we mentioned, meme coins here, they're the best performing of these 13 or so that we have here. And liquid staking derivatives continue to do well. Social assets have done well over the past week. And then ERC20s with Ethereum kind of having a bit of a mini run, many assets with related technology that use Ethereum's network in some capacity, they've done well as a result. And then those that have kind of taken a back seat, AI and big data, which has been kind of one of the big stories of 2024 with Render and so many of these assets that are associated with the constantly and rapidly improving AI technologies out there. They've taken a bit of a back seat over the past week. So I would definitely keep an eye on this if you're looking for opportunities, breaking it down by sector, and then, opening up the watch list. You can quickly kind of see which opportunities are arising. You can even take a look at different filters and things like that. But there's always great insights by looking at it from these types of perspective and going by sector. Okay. A few other things on Bitcoin I wanted to mention. So besides this key line where 10 plus Bitcoin wallets are continuing to rise, keep in mind that Tether is going down in terms of the key shark and whale tiers that hold anywhere between $100,000 to $10 million in the largest stablecoin. USD coin, kind of up and down. It had been on a bit of a drop, but at least over the past couple of months, it's rebounding better than Tether. And then supply and exchanges, take this with a grain of salt because the numbers are still going to be skewed, but the direction should be more or less accurate. And Bitcoin is moving its supply and exchanges down over time. Tether has been moving to exchanges very rapidly over the last couple of months. It has kind of flattened out after that all-time high hit in March, while USD coin's kind of moving in the other direction and staying very low. It's kind of a bit of a wash right now. We talked about funding rates already. Total amount of holders for Bitcoin. We'd like to see this stay flat, but it has been moving up as of late. This kind of makes sense with, the speculative type of nature of traders right now being very eager to get in before another all-time high may happen. This decreases the likelihood of another all-time high happening just yet. And then percentage of total supply and profit has rebounded back above 95%. So this does indicate that we're closer to a top. We'd like to see this line stay a little further down, potentially get back below 90% again. That's a few more Bitcoin updates. We are a little over 10 minutes left for the stream. So maybe this is a good time for us to transition. Mr. Balresh, maybe you have a few recommendations of coins we can look at. No worries. Maksim, maybe there's something that you've been taking a look at recently, or maybe we could talk about like wrapped staked Ethereum, something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, we can. Indeed, we can look into supply distribution for wrapped stack Ethereum. We just touched this topic recently, and it's still pretty new, and I don't think many people discussing it.
It's
just short intro. When we analyze supply distribution, we always try to understand or spot the times when behavior between small, then middle sharks and dolphins, and big hodlers when they start to deviate from each other, because they should deviate in specific points of time, especially in critical, like a turning point. Crowd tends to start rapidly accumulating on top, or they don't do anything when there is really good opportunities where the whales, they might sell early and they buy early. And the active people, like mid-range, you will see they generally ride the waves. And it's easy in Bitcoin, or relatively easy, let's put it this way. But in Ethereum, the whole picture got skewed because everyone just moving more and more and more to liquid staking. And if you look at Ethereum directly, you don't understand much. All balances decreasing, and only balances of Lido and similar Rocket Pool keep increasing because everyone was moving there. So what to analyze? And then the story began, where we started to dig deeper with Brian and say, okay, let's look into liquid staking tokens. But there was similar pictures also starting centralized. It's moving to big address. And I said, okay, let's look into wrapped stake token, wrapped staked Ethereum, because my assumption was this is what people are indeed using at the end. Was they put in different liquidity pools, so they keep it for different purposes, and the picture indeed emerged. But we just started to analyze it. Yeah. I don't know, Brian, if you came to any conclusions yet?
Yeah, I think especially after our talk that we had earlier this week, Maxim, I really looked into some of the correlations going on and put as many as I could into this insight that you can check out for free on insights.santiment.net, whether you're a paid user or free. This is educational for everybody. And we talked about how Ethereum in particular can have a very difficult alpha narrative when it comes to checking out each of their tiers and seeing, how price may move in the future based on shark and whale movements. Unlike Bitcoin or Chainlink or some of these other popular assets where whales dump or whales accumulate and prices tend to follow, that tends to be very tricky with Ethereum due to the amount of staking going on and the various DeFi, NFT purchases, things like that can really skew the data for Ethereum in particular. So you can see all these different shark and whale lines on this image here that kind of have been moving down over time, even though Ethereum's been moving up. That's kind of just an illustration of how muddled this data is. And that's why we tend to look at wrapped staked Ethereum, because it tends to reflect more active trader movements that are correlated with where they expect or want prices to move next, especially looking at tiers like the 100 to 10,000 wrapped staked Ethereum addresses. There tends to be a lot of correlation over time. And then this one's probably my favorite. It's the 10,000 plus Rocket Pool Ethereum tokens. So a quick recap. Rocket Pool Ethereum is a staked Ethereum token staked through the Rocket Pool protocol, and it's a decentralized platform, in case you've never heard of this, that allows users to stake Ethereum and receive RF, or Rocket Pool Ethereum, which is used for DeFi apps. So focusing on addresses, specifically that hold 10,000 or more Rocket Pool F, has a huge correlation. I think this might single-handedly be the best chart for predicting future Ethereum movements, just based on my, 3 to 4 hours of research when I was messing with it earlier this week. And you can see over time, they accumulated significantly since late August, peaked right at the top, or maybe a week or two beforehand, right as the second to last big weekly green candle happened, had one more mini leg up here, and then boom, there's this huge dump as prices are going down, and it continued until about 3 weeks ago. And since that time, they've started to accumulate again. Not a huge accumulation, I get it, but over time, this appears to have a pretty heavy correlation that coincides precisely with prices. And I recommend you guys take a look at Rocket Pool Eth as well as Wrapped Stake Ethereum and see what you can find in terms of alpha there, in terms of how it correlates with Ethereum. This is not measuring the price of Rocket Pool Eth versus these 10,000 plus coins. It's Ethereum's price right here versus Rocket Pool Ethereum. And you can see just how aligned they are with where prices move next. Same goes for Rocket Pool itself. And I've noticed, there are a lot of correlations with just the overall accumulation of Rocket Pool, even before they're staked in Rocket Pool ETH, and how that correlates with the price of Ethereum. So there's some good findings you may see when looking at the three coins of Rocket Pool ETH, and Wrapped Staked Ethereum, and checking on them on a daily basis to see if there's some huge drop like this or huge accumulation that might occur in the next month or two. You might be one of the first to foreshadow a big pump or a big dump in Ethereum based on what's going on these three networks. So keep that in mind. Now, one final thing I can take a look at here is the activity matrix. And right now, looks like it has not fully loaded, unfortunately, but there's still a lot we can look at. Bitcoin's network overall is actually pretty cold compared to the past 3 months, as we saw with circulation, active addresses, network growth. They're all down pretty significantly. Ethereum name service is one that's kind of heated up. Magic token, Coin98, Jasmy. Let me widen this just a little bit. Stargate Finance, interestingly, is seeing a huge jump. A lot of coins you may not have been thinking of in a while. But the reason I mentioned this model is it's a great way to find which assets are most likely to see a price direction change. And if you're a Sandbase Pro member or you're on a trial, feel free to check out this model. Just make a copy of it, plug in your API, and you can see something just like this. And you can be one of the first to see where a big direction change may be coming up for an asset that you're either tracking or maybe have never even heard of. It's all right here. All right. Any final words from you, Maksim, on the markets right now? Things people should be looking at going into the month of June?
Yeah, there is still potential to grow up, but stay careful, especially extremely careful once we see again irrational expectations of the future. And irrational, it's 150 to 100K for Bitcoin and 10,000 for Ethereum. When you see it popping up again, time probably to live for good. Yeah. As long as it's not there yet, so obvious, okay, we can keep our longs. But don't get caught into positive wave if it will appear. We have too many signs here. Lack of taking profits, meme coins pumping. If even some people say it's this time is different, I don't think so. Meme coins pumping is always the same story. We're around the top, and expectations of bright future. It's too many not good signs. It just at the moment seems to be they disappeared, so we can grow. But if they're back, especially all three of them, and you start reading it everywhere that now the road is clear, run. For now, we can play the game.
Sounds like wise words indeed. Yeah, I think there is a mild amount of irrationality right now, skewing toward the bullish end. So just be safe out there and watch for news carefully, especially related to the Trump situation. I do think that can end up having a dramatic impact And you can also look at our templates. There's one that you can actually compare the price of Bitcoin versus the S&P versus gold. And as you can see, there's still a pretty tight correlation between the green and blue lines here representing Bitcoin and the S&P 500 respectively. So until that changes, if the equities markets start to take a tumble, it would be surprising if Bitcoin doesn't follow suit, at least to some extent. All right, guys. Well, on behalf of the Santiment team and everyone who watched, let's stay tuned to what this next week looks like. And Maxim, thanks so much for joining today.
Thanks for running the show. Talk to you.
All right, my friend. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.